Hello there. In this video I will explain what the Linux distribution is. I will also show a few examples and also explain what to do if you have installed a variant you don't like. So stay with me. We will start by looking at a few distributions such as Linux Mint, OpenSUSE, Hannah Montana and Pop! OS. Here we have Linux Mint version 22.3. The start menu is in the same place as in Windows, placed at the bottom. If we open the start menu, at the top we see the user. It is possible to click and change some of the user properties. Then we have two buttons that open the file manager. The top one opens the folder for the desktop and the other one opens for the downloads. Then we have buttons for calculator, calendar, text editor, software manager and system settings. In the bottom there we have buttons for locking the screen, log out and power off, restart or suspend. In the middle there are logical groups of applications, except for the top one that shows all the applications in alphabetical order. No click are needed to see what the content is under these buttons. In the bottom there we have a search field to seek for files or applications. Right of the start button there we have buttons for file manager, Firefox and the terminal. I will later open this to show how they lays out and the look and feel. On the far right we have the usual functions as update manager, network, sound, battery management and the clock. If we open the file manager, Firefox and the terminal, as you see, they will lay out almost on the top of each other. On the top of the windows, you see a minimize button, maximize button, and the close button. It is easy to see the functions of the buttons when they have logical symbols as this. We're moving on to OpenSUSE. The start menu are placed at the bottom. At the top we see user information, next a search field for files and applications. Next we have two buttons. Left one are for configuration and the right one makes the menu to be constant open. Under the user we have favorites, all applications, that shows all applications in alphabetical order. And then we have logical groups of applications. You need to click on the groups to activate them. The last button, the lost and found. It is for storing file sessions or notifications that accidentally get lost, but KDE keeps track of them. Nice feature for unlucky people. At the bottom we have applications, and that is the menu we just saw. Places change the menu. And we get access to other things than applications. Then we have buttons to get the computer sleepy, power off and so on. I will not go in detail about those buttons or lost and found button. On the panel next to the start menu we can change the virtual desktop. There are buttons for system settings, software center, file manager and the web browser. At the right we have for system updates, sound, Bluetooth, screen brightness, network, battery and so on. And we have a clock with calendar. Last button to minimize all applications. At the first glance, start menus between Mint and OpenSUSE seem similar, but it is big difference between them. This is of two reasons. Mint uses Cinnamon Desktop and OpenSUSE KDE. The second reason is how the PMers want their distributions to work. Every distribution has its own purpose. I will open File Manager, web browser and the terminal. So we will see and compare them to Linux Mint, how they lays out and how they looks. As you see, they will lay out on top of each other, just like in Mint. At the top, we have the three buttons, but they looks different. But they have same functions as in Mint. Let's start with the basics, what the distribution actually is. A Linux system is easier to understand if you think of it as layers. Each layer can talk to the layer next to it, and together they form a complete working operating system. Of course, this is a simplified picture. Real systems are more complex than that. On the bottom is hardware. The physical stuff like CPU, RAM and graphics card. Then comes the kernel, which acts like a central control. It's managed hardware and gives PM access to it. Above that, the display server handles graphics and input, so Windows can appear and respond. Next is the desktop environment, which gives you the look and feel, panels, settings, and window behavior. On top of that the applications, like browser, terminal, file manager, that you actually see. A Linux distribution is everything you get from the kernel and up. The system layers that make the computer actually feel like a usable desktop. The biggest difference between distributions usually show up in the desktop environment and the application you ship with it. But it's not only what programs you get, it is also how they look and behave. Even within same desktop environment, the themes can change the experience. Icons, button styles, colors and menu layouts. All of that adds up to same thing user notice right away. The overall look and feel. Almost every distribution have a purpose. For example, Steam OS, made for gaming on the living room TV, built around the Steam experience and the controller play. Ubuntu, a general purpose Linux, easy for beginners, widely supported, and good for everyday use and also servers. Linux Mint, my favorite distribution. Simple, friendly desktop Linux, easy to install and use, with a classic comfortable interface. Pop! OS, built for work and productivity, especially for laptops and for people who deal with graphics, coding and creator setup. OpenSUSE, a more system-focused Linux, aimed at people who like managing computers carefully and using strong administrators tools. Heritage. For example, Linux Mint and Pop! OS are based on Ubuntu. Ubuntu is based on Debian. That's common. Many distributions build on top of another one. It's often much easier to start from an existing distribution than to build a whole new one from scratch. Now we continue to evaluate Pop! OS. We will start to see quite big differences. I will not go in depth, just highlight some of the biggest differences. If you are still with me, please press like and subscribe. Now we have two panels, one in the top and one in the bottom. This is the Cosmic desktop. If we look at the bottom, the left one is a launcher, and it opens a search field for applications. Already opened applications will list under the search field. Next button, that shows workspace. Now we have just one workspace. And the third button is for applications. It opens a search field. And the applications are in logic groups. If we continue, there are frequently used applications. If we look at the top panel, on the left, there are buttons for workspaces and applications. It is basically same as in the buttons on the lower panel. In the middle, we have a clock with calendar. To the right, there are settings for keyboard, tools for the disabled persons, sounds, Bluetooth, network, battery, and for power off, sleep, log out, and so on. If we open, for example, a file explorer, we will see the usual buttons on the top right. Colorful frame filled with a dark color. Next, we will take a briefly look at Hannah Montana Linux. It is just to see the possibility of theming a distribution. Hannah Montana Linux is not maintained anymore. The first version had unstoppable Hannah Montana song. We had to shut down the computer to stop the music. As what I understand, it was built as a joke. In the next episode, we will dive in different desktop environment. See you soon. Bye.